Quantum Break. It's one of those games that had such a cool concept. It was supposed to be this ambitious blend of a video game and a live-action TV show. Remedy Entertainment, who, by the way, also made Alan Wake and Control, really went for it with this one. But despite all the effort, it didn't quite land the way they hoped. Still, Quantum Break was way better than people gave it credit for. First, let's address the elephant in the room, the live-action TV show aspect. So, here's the deal. After every act in the game, you'd get a 20-minute episode of a show that followed the story from different perspectives. Some people thought that was super cool, while others just didn't. A lot of gamers felt like it broke the flow of the game. And, to be fair, not everyone wants to sit through 20 minutes of TV when they're in the mood to game. That decision alone turned off a lot of people. But if you were open to the idea, it was actually a pretty fresh take. The show wasn't bad either. It had some solid acting, including big names like Sean Ashmore and Aidan Gillen. The way your in-game choices impacted the show episodes was also a neat touch. It added this layer of interactivity that you don't see in most games. Now, when it came to the gameplay itself, Quantum Break absolutely nailed the time manipulation mechanics. You had all these cool powers, like freezing time, dodging bullets, and even creating time shields. It made combat feel fast, fluid, and just downright fun. There's nothing quite like freezing a group of enemies in place, unloading your weapon, and then watching the chaos unfold. Ghost Runner. If you haven't played it yet, imagine a cyberpunk world, neon lights everywhere, and you're a futuristic ninja with a katana. Right off the bat, Ghost Runner hits you with its fast-paced, wall-running, and insane parkour. It's one of those games where you can't help but feel like a total badass, but it also humbles you real quick. One wrong move, and bam, you're dead. But here's the thing, the respawn is immediate, so you're right back at it, trying to perfect your next run. It's super rewarding when you get into that flow state. You'll be slicing through enemies, running on walls, and dodging bullets like a pro, all in one smooth motion. The game is so fluid, and the controls feel tight, which is crucial for a game like this. The setting is equally awesome. It's this gritty, dystopian cyberpunk city, and the visuals are just eye candy. I couldn't help but get drawn into the atmosphere, the neon, the rain-soaked streets, the towering skyscrapers. It feels like you're in the middle of a futuristic action movie, but you're the star doing all these crazy stunts. One thing I have to mention is the soundtrack. Oh, man, the music is fire, just pure synthwave goodness that pumps you up during every intense sequence. It complements the gameplay so well, and there were moments where I caught myself bobbing my head while dodging bullets. Sure, the game's difficulty can be brutal at times, but that's kind of the point. When you finally nail a level that's been giving you trouble, it's this amazing sense of accomplishment. Agents of Mayhem. It takes the concept of a hero shooter, blends it with an open-world sandbox, and then cranks the dial all the way up to ridiculous. It's like playing through an explosive Saturday morning cartoon where the action never lets up. And honestly, it works so well because of that. The premise is simple. You're in charge of an elite squad of agents, each with their own larger-than-life personalities and absurd abilities, tasked with taking down a villainous organization. The gameplay revolves around assembling your perfect team of 3 agents and switching between them on the fly, each bringing something wildly different to the table. Whether you're into brute force, sniping from a distance, or zipping around like a maniac with high-tech gadgets, there's an agent for every style of chaos. Customization plays a big role here, and it's a blast. You can tweak your agents with upgrades and abilities to make them even more overpowered in the most satisfying ways. The game constantly rewards you for experimenting with different setups, so it never feels stale. The City of Soul is your playground, and it's bursting with opportunities for mayhem. The missions are unapologetically wild, often throwing you into absurd situations where the stakes feel high, but the tone stays lighthearted. The game knows it's not here to make you think too hard. It's here to let you blow things up in style, and it does so with a wink and a grin. One of the best parts of Agents of Mayhem is the humor. It doesn't take itself seriously for a second. Satisfactory. I'm telling you, it's so addictive, but in the best way possible. It's basically all about building the most insane, efficient factories you can think of, but on this massive alien planet. And the scale of it just keeps getting bigger the longer you play. The first time I played, I had no idea how deep it was going to get. You start off with this small little base, mining some resources, and before you know it, you've got conveyor belts going in every direction, towering machines, and all these interconnected systems running like a well-oiled machine. It's such a satisfying feeling when everything clicks and your factory just runs itself. One of the coolest things about Satisfactory is that it gives you total freedom to design your factory how you want. You can be super organized and create these clean, beautiful setups, or you can go full chaos with machines stacked on top of each other, belts weaving all over the place. It's all up to you, and I love that about the game. There's no wrong way to play. It's all about creativity, and the world you're on is gorgeous. I didn't expect it to be so beautiful for a game that's all about industry and automation, but you're exploring this massive, lush alien planet with all kinds of biomes. Sometimes I just find myself wandering around, checking out the scenery, and appreciating the environment before going back to the madness of factory building. The exploration aspect is honestly underrated. You're not just stuck at your base, you get to venture out, find new resources, and even unlock cool tech. Scum. What sets Scum apart from other survival games is how detailed it is. And I mean detailed. This isn't just about finding food and water to stay alive. No, Scum dives deep, literally, into your character's metabolism. You need to manage your energy, protein, hydration, and even vitamins. Yep, you might actually learn a bit about nutrition while playing. It sounds overwhelming, but it's surprisingly fun. You're not just playing a character, you're micromanaging a human being, and it's oddly satisfying to see everything come together when you're doing well. Of course, it wouldn't be a survival game without threats, right? The island is home to all sorts of challenges, from aggressive wildlife to freaky zombie-like creatures. And let's not forget other players. If you're playing on a multiplayer server, you'll need to keep an eye out for those who might see you as an easy target. But here's the thing. Scum gives you the tools to adapt to these dangers. You can focus on stealth and avoid conflict altogether, or you can gear up and take on anything, or anyone that stands in your way. And then there's the crafting. This game is a survivalist's dream when it comes to creating tools, weapons, and even shelter. Whether you're whipping up a campfire, piecing together weapons from scraps, or making improvised gear, crafting in Scum feels practical and rewarding. Every item you make feels like an accomplishment, especially when you've scavenged for hours to find just the right materials. The combat is dynamic and tense. Wavetail, a game that feels like it's bottled the pure joy of movement and turned it into a whole adventure. Imagine being able to skim across the water with the speed and grace of a bird in flight, blending fluid exploration with a sense of wonder. You're not just swimming or boating like you would in most water-based games. Nope, you're literally surfing across the waves, and it's as smooth and exhilarating as it sounds. The game gives you this incredible freedom to glide, leap, and even zip through the air, making every movement feel like a dance with the water itself. The gameplay revolves around exploration, light combat, and puzzle solving. But the magic lies in how it all feels so interconnected. You'll be skimming the waves one moment, leaping onto a platform the next, and then maybe swinging from a grapple point, all in one fluid motion. It's like the game is constantly inviting you to play, experiment, and enjoy the ride. The water reacts to your movements in ways that feel dynamic and alive, creating this ever-changing playground where every ripple and wave adds a layer of excitement. Whether you're racing across the surface or diving into new areas, there's always this sense of discovery and momentum that keeps things fresh. The combat is another layer that adds a little spice to the adventure. It's simple and approachable, focusing more on rhythm and timing than complexity. The enemies you face aren't just obstacles, they're part of the flow. Taking them on while surfing across the water or midair adds this cool, cinematic flair to the action. Thief. Fans of the original Thief games loved the deep stealth mechanics and immersive world building, but when the 2014 version came out, it got a lot of flack from longtime fans and critics alike. People felt it didn't capture the spirit of the originals, and there were complaints about the clunky controls, linear level design, and a story that didn't quite hit the mark. One of the big issues was how it handled the stealth mechanics. In the older Thief games, you had more freedom to approach situations in different ways, and it felt very open-ended. But with this reboot, many players felt like it was more restrictive, with levels that funneled you into specific paths. That loss of freedom didn't sit well with fans who loved the open-ended, creative gameplay of the original series. On top of that, some of the AI was criticized for being too predictable or outright dumb at times, which kind of broke the immersion for a stealth-focused game. But here's the thing. If you step back and take Thief 2014 for what it is, It's actually a pretty solid stealth game. It's atmospheric, the dark, gritty world of the city is really well designed, and when the stealth mechanics click, it's super satisfying. Sneaking around, looting treasures, and staying in the shadows can be pretty immersive if you're not too worried about how it compares to the originals. Plus, visually, the game looks great. The attention to detail in the environments and the lighting effects really help to set the mood. The sound design is also a big highlight. Using sound to your advantage or avoiding noisy surfaces makes the stealth feel more intense. The Medium. This game brings a fresh twist to psychological horror by putting you right in the middle of two worlds at the same time. It's all about stepping into the shoes of a medium who can interact with both the physical and spiritual realms, which makes for some truly unique gameplay mechanics. It's not just about surviving, it's about uncovering mysteries and piecing together the truth across two parallel realities. The core of the game revolves around exploration and problem solving. The dual reality system is the standout feature, letting you navigate two distinct worlds simultaneously. It's a mechanic that feels seamless and adds a whole new layer to how you approach challenges. Some puzzles require actions in one world to affect the other, creating moments where you're constantly thinking on your feet and adapting to the eerie environments. Interacting with the spiritual world brings a sense of wonder and unease. You'll encounter strange phenomena, communicate with lost souls, and uncover secrets hidden in plain sight. The way the game blends these interactions with the physical world makes every moment feel tense and meaningful. It's a clever use of the medium's abilities that keeps the gameplay fresh and engaging. Stealth and evasion are part of the experience, but they're not the main focus. Instead of fighting enemies head-on, you're often trying to outsmart or avoid them altogether. This approach builds tension without making the game feel overly stressful. It's all about staying alert and figuring out how to use your surroundings and your abilities. Homefront, The Revolution, a game that takes the idea of guerrilla warfare and turns it into a gritty, on-the-ground fight for survival and freedom. If you've ever wondered what it'd feel like to be part of a scrappy resistance fighting against a high-tech oppressive force, this game throws you right into the thick of it. The premise is simple. You're fighting to take back control, one block at a time, in a city that feels alive and under constant threat. You're not some heavily armored super soldier here. You're scrapping together resources, improvising weapons, and rallying people to your cause. The gameplay has this great balance of tactical planning and high-stakes action. A lot of it revolves around taking back zones controlled by the enemy, but it's not as straightforward as just running in with guns blazing. You'll need to scope out areas, figure out patrol patterns, and decide whether you're going in loud or keeping things stealthy. And honestly, both approaches have their own kind of thrill. But the game doesn't just throw you into missions and leave it at that. It creates a world where you feel the tension of an occupied city. The streets aren't just set dressing. They're filled with danger and opportunity. You might run into a patrol one moment, then find a hidden stash or a group of allies the next. It keeps you on your toes and makes every trip through the city feel like an adventure. Another cool thing, the emphasis on getting the people behind you. You're not just fighting for your survival. You're inspiring others to rise up. It's like building a movement from the ground up. Remember Me. Picture a world where memories can be digitized, traded, sold, and even rewritten. Yes, rewritten. It's a setting that feels futuristic but also scarily plausible. And you get to explore this fascinating concept firsthand. You play as Nilin, a memory hunter with some seriously cool skills, like the ability to remix memories. Yes, you can dive into someone's mind, tweak their recollections, and change how they perceive reality. It's an incredibly clever mechanic that makes you feel like you're not just playing a game, but actively unraveling the fabric of someone's life. Combat in Remember Me is another highlight. It's not just about button mashing your way through enemies. It's all about rhythm, timing, and customization. The game features something called the Combo Lab, where you can create and tweak your own combos. Imagine being able to craft your fighting style to fit the situation, whether you need to deal maximum damage or regain some health in the heat of battle. It makes you feel like a true artist of combat, chaining together moves with a precision that's as satisfying as it is effective. This game has some of the most fluid and satisfying movement mechanics around. You'll find yourself scaling walls, leaping across rooftops, and navigating tight spaces in a way that feels intuitive and natural. Generation Zero. Set in an alternate 1980s Sweden, the game creates a unique atmosphere where you're up against something much bigger than yourself, a world overrun by mysterious, hostile machines. The heart of Generation Zero lies in its survival mechanics and its open-world exploration. You're not handed everything on a silver platter. You've got to scavenge for weapons, ammo, and supplies while navigating a landscape that's both beautiful and eerily quiet. This isn't just about survival, though. It's about figuring out how to outsmart enemies that are relentless, unpredictable, and seriously intimidating. Combat is strategic and always keeps you on your toes. The machines you face aren't your typical enemies. They're tough, intelligent, and each one has its own unique behaviors. Some are massive, lumbering tanks of destruction, while others are smaller, faster, and just as deadly. Stealth plays a big role in the gameplay, and it's incredibly satisfying to outmaneuver a patrol of machines or set up the perfect ambush. Using the environment to your advantage is key, whether it's sneaking through dense forests or using buildings as cover. Exploration is where Generation Zero really shines. The world is filled with clues, abandoned homes, and pieces of a puzzle that hint at what's happened. There's a real sense of mystery as you wander through empty towns, eerie farmlands, and sprawling forests. You'll find notes, items, and other bits of information. Mountain Blade 2. This isn't just a typical RPG or strategy game. It's like living out your own medieval fantasy. You start off as a humble character, but from the get-go, you feel like you're on this epic journey to carve out your destiny in a sprawling world filled with kingdoms, clans, and armies. One of the best parts? You're in full control of how you want to play. You could be a mercenary for hire, a fearless warrior leading your own band of soldiers, or even a shrewd trader moving goods across the land. There's so much freedom to just pick a path that feels right for you, and the game fully supports it, no matter what direction you take. The battles are where it gets really intense. You're not just watching the action, you're in the thick of it, swinging swords, firing arrows, and commanding your troops. And these battles are huge. You're part of these massive, chaotic skirmishes, and it feels like you're in the middle of an actual medieval battlefield. But Bannerlord isn't just about fighting, it's also about strategy. You're managing everything from your troops to your resources, deciding when to take risk or play it safe. Building alliances and managing relationships with different lords and factions adds this extra layer that makes it feel like a medieval version of Game of Thrones. Every decision you make, every alliance, and even every slight against another lord has consequences. One thing I love is the world itself. It feels alive. Villages and cities grow. People have their own lives. And you're part of this bigger world that moves forward. The Lord of the Rings Gollum. The game takes you on a journey through Middle-earth like no other. The gameplay revolves around stealth and strategy. Gollum isn't a fighter, so the game leans heavily on outsmarting your foes. Whether it's sneaking past patrolling guards or using the environment to create distractions, every move feels deliberate and tense. The challenge lies in reading the situation, plotting your approach, and knowing when to act, or when to retreat into the shadows. The climbing mechanics are a standout feature, emphasizing Gollum's agility and resourcefulness. Scaling cliffs, jumping between precarious ledges, and finding hidden paths make traversal feel engaging. The verticality of the environments invites exploration, rewarding you with a sense of accomplishment when you uncover a clever route or navigate a particularly tricky section. The moral choice system adds a layer of complexity that feels perfectly tailored to Gollum. His internal conflict is more than a story element. It's woven into the gameplay itself. As you progress, decisions will reflect the tug-of-war between his two sides. It's not just about good or evil, it's about survival versus compassion, selfishness versus cooperation. Every choice feels weighty because it's tied directly to who Gollum is as a character. Gollum offers a unique perspective on Middle-earth, and its quirks make it worth the investment. It occasionally goes on sale, and when it does, the discounts can be substantial enough to make you feel like you found your own precious. Shattered, Tale of the Forgotten King. This one really stands out in how it combines exploration, combat, and a touch of mystery to keep you hooked. You're encouraged to move at your own pace, taking the time to uncover secrets and figure out the best way to approach challenges. The game feels like it respects your curiosity, rewarding you for paying attention and diving into its world headfirst. Combat is another big highlight. It's got this deliberate, skill-focused style that keeps you on your toes. Every fight feels like a puzzle you're solving in real time. Do you go in aggressively? Or do you wait for the perfect moment to counter? Timing is everything, and the way the game pushes you to master its mechanics makes every victory feel hard-earned and incredibly satisfying. What really sets Shattered apart is the mix of gameplay styles. It's not just a combat game, and it's not just about exploration. It's a blend of both, and the way it switches things up keeps the experience fresh. You might spend time carefully navigating a tricky area, only to suddenly find yourself in a high-stakes battle. It's that variety that keeps you constantly engaged. Now, one of the coolest aspects of Shattered is how it invites you to experiment and adapt. The game doesn't hold your hand. It gives you the tools and lets you figure things out. There's a real sense of freedom in how you approach challenges, whether it's using your abilities in clever ways or taking a different route to avoid trouble altogether. That feeling of discovery is one of the game's biggest strengths. Infinity Nikki. This game is such a delightful mix of creativity, adventure, and pure fun. It's one of those titles that doesn't just give you a world to explore. It hands you the keys and says, go ahead, make it your own. Whether you're experimenting with mechanics, solving challenges, or just taking in the gameplay features, Infinity Nikki keeps you engaged and smiling all the way through. One of the most exciting parts of the game is how interactive it feels. It's not just about going from point A to point B. It's about immersing yourself in everything the game has to offer. There are tons of little moments that reward curiosity and experimentation, whether it's discovering a clever way to solve a problem or finding a hidden interaction you weren't expecting. The mechanics are incredibly satisfying. Everything feels intuitive and polished, so it's easy to pick up, but it also has layers of depth that make it fun to master. Whether you're tackling challenges, trying out different approaches, or just experimenting with the tools at your disposal, it's all so fluid and enjoyable. There's always something new to try or a different way to engage with the gameplay. It feels like the developers really wanted to give players freedom and creativity, and it shows in how many options you have to interact with the world. The puzzles are another highlight. They're clever without being overly complicated, which makes them feel rewarding, but never frustrating. Solving them gives you that little dopamine hit, like you've just figured out the missing piece of a puzzle, and it makes you want to keep going. Deep Rock Galactic. It's one of those games that's just pure fun from the moment you jump in. You play as these badass space dwarves, mining for resources on this crazy alien planet, and everything about it is chaotic in the best way possible. One of the first things that hit me was how satisfying it feels to dig and blow stuff up. The mining mechanics are on point. You've got this massive, destructible environment, and you can just tear through it with your drills, pickaxes, and explosives. It's super cathartic, especially after a long day. Nothing beats blowing up a cave full of minerals or making your own path to a hidden spot. The team-based aspect is where it really shines, though. It's all about cooperation. You and up to 3 friends each play different classes, like the gunner, scout, driller, or engineer, and everyone's got their own role to play. I usually go with the engineer because, let's be real, setting up turrets and zip lines for the squad is too fun, but it's cool how every class feels useful no matter what. It's like the game encourages everyone to contribute to the mission in their own way. Speaking of missions, they can get crazy. You're deep in these alien caves, surrounded by bugs, and things can go from, we got this, to, oh god, we're screwed in a matter of seconds. You're mining for minerals one minute, and the next, you're fighting off hordes of giant alien spiders. It's that balance of calm exploration and total chaos that keeps it exciting. I also love how the game doesn't take itself too seriously. Death's Door. This isn't just another action-adventure game. It's a journey filled with quirky humor, unexpected beauty, and a story that hits all the right notes without overwhelming you. Plus, you get to play as a crow. Yes, a sword-wielding, tiny, feathery reaper. And honestly, that's reason enough to dive in. You're a crow working as a reaper for the Bureaucratic Commission of Death. Your job is to collect souls. But, as you can imagine, things don't go quite as planned. The result? You're thrust into a mysterious world full of danger, intrigue, and plenty of darkly comedic moments. And despite the game's title, the tone is never too heavy. It strikes this perfect balance between melancholy and whimsy. The combat is tight, responsive, and wonderfully satisfying. You'll be slashing, dodging, and casting spells in a rhythm that feels smooth and natural. It's not overly complicated, but that's what makes it so fun. You can focus on the flow of the fight without being bogged down by mechanics. And the enemies? Oh, they're as creative as they are challenging. Each encounter feels different, with unique attack patterns that keep you on your toes. It's never frustrating, though. It's the kind of challenge that makes you want to jump back in and try again. Boss battles, in particular, are a highlight. They're big, bold, and beautifully designed, but they also feel fair. Every victory feels earned, and every defeat feels like a lesson learned. The pacing of the game is just right, too. It never feels like it's dragging. What Remains of Edith Finch. If you've never heard of this game, let me tell you, this isn't your typical video game. It's not about shooting enemies, leveling up, or saving the world. Instead, it's an exploration of life, memories, and the extraordinary in the everyday. Here's the deal. The game puts you in the shoes of Edith Finch, and she's on a journey to explore her old family home. And as you wander through this strange, sprawling mansion, you uncover stories about the Finch family, their lives, and, well, let's just say some fascinating truths about them. What makes What Remains of Edith Finch special is how it tells its stories. This game doesn't just tell you things, it lets you experience them. Each story you encounter plays out in an entirely different way, with gameplay that constantly surprises you. You might go from doing something totally grounded and relatable to something whimsical and surreal, and it all flows together so naturally that you're constantly caught off guard in the best way possible. And honestly, I think that's the beauty of this game. It's like a collection of short stories, each one distinct yet connected. You're not just playing. You're participating in this deeply creative anthology of lives, moments, and emotions. It's the kind of game where every single scene feels purposeful. Every tiny detail serves to pull you deeper into the world. One of the most amazing things about What Remains of Edith Finch is how much it respects your curiosity. The game doesn't rush you. There's no ticking clock or looming threat. Marvel Rivals. This game throws you into the Marvel Universe's most intense 6v6 battles, letting you assemble your dream team of heroes and villains for some seriously action-packed showdowns. Right from the start, you're picking from a roster that includes fan favorites like Wolverine, Black Widow, Iron Fist, Squirrel Girl, and Cloak and Dagger. Each character brings their own unique abilities to the table, and the real magic happens when you start combining these powers. Imagine pairing up Hulk and Wolverine for a devastating combo, or having Squirrel Girl team up with Spider-Man for some web-slinging squirrel chaos. The possibilities are wild, and experimenting with different team-ups keeps the gameplay fresh and exciting. The battles take place in dynamic environments that are as much a part of the action as the characters themselves. One standout is the Kintar, symbiotic surface map, where the Guardians of the Galaxy and Venom clash over the threat of Null. The map's terrain isn't just for show, it changes and reacts, adding layers of strategy to each match. You'll need to adapt on the fly, using the environment to your advantage, while keeping an eye on your opponent's moves. What sets Marvel Rivals apart is its focus on team-based strategies. It's not just about individual skill, it's about how well you can coordinate with your squad. Whether you're playing with friends or jumping into matches with players from around the world, communication and synergy are key. The game encourages you to think like a team, combining abilities in creative ways. Killzone Shadowfall. This isn't your typical run-and-gun FPS. Sure, you've got your guns, a satisfying variety of them, by the way, but Shadowfall encourages a little more thought. You've got this super cool gadget called the Owl, a drone that's basically your best buddy in the field. Need to zipline to a new spot? The Owl got you. Got enemies closing in. Send it to shock or attack them. It's like the Swiss Army knife of futuristic combat, and I loved figuring out new ways to use it. It makes you feel like a tech-savvy soldier, rather than just another trigger-happy grunt. Speaking of the combat, the pacing is where this game shines. Some missions are heart-pounding shootouts that make you feel like you're in the middle of a sci-fi war movie. Others are slower, almost stealthy sections, where you can really take in the world around you. It's a nice mix that keeps things fresh. I'll admit, I may or may not have botched a few stealth sections by going in a little too loud and proud. But hey, improvising is half the fun, right? One thing I really appreciate is how accessible the game is. You don't have to be a Killzone veteran to jump in. If you've never played any of the previous games, you'll still be able to follow along just fine. But if you are a fan, there are definitely some nods and touches that'll make you smile. And the story, without spoiling anything, I'll just say, it's not your typical good guys versus bad guys setup. There's a lot of moral gray area here, and the game isn't afraid to make you question things. Like, who's really in the right? It's not super preachy about it, but it does make you think,